Good morning, everyone. This is Carl Palachuk, and I am joined today by Mr. Ken Edwards. And Ken is from Mesa Computer Systems, right?
Maverick Mesa.
Maverick Mesa. There we go. And
we're not counting.
Ken's a friend of mine from many, many years, and actually back on several other older podcasts and webinars, we have talked about Ken's, basic willingness to do what a lot of people haven't done, which is go out into the world and connect on a global scale with people who are, doing business in other countries. And, it's interesting. So many of us are so isolated, especially I think the United States sometimes is worse than other countries. But we are, we hear about people who are doing business in China or the Philippines or whatever, but the closest we get is we buy stock in Alibaba when it goes public, right? So, Ken, why don't you start first by telling us about the background of your IT consulting business and how you decided that in the middle of the recession it was time to expand into new ventures.
Well, funny you should ask that, Carl. I have a little slideshow here we can go through to get you from where I started to where I am today.
Oh, perfect.
How's that? Okay. So how do you use the world to your advantage? Let me walk through this real quick. Okay, let's see here. All right, this is who I am. Carl's already announced the company, and I started back in 1987 when somebody said, hey, my computer's not working, can you get me a new hard drive? And that's when I launched off into my own business. Now, of course, I started out with break-fix work, but now I'm running multiple businesses. I've got two corporations, one being the IT and then another sort of shelter corporation where I run all the internet businesses through. So actually, that's actually me. I don't own a stormtrooper outfit, at least not yet. So how did I get where I am today? It's pretty easy. I got out of the military and I went to work for a corporation. I worked there for 8 years, Carl's Jr. actually, and I did a lot of field service work fixing cash registers. But like any corporation, it's sort of a treadmill job. You get on there and you sort of put your head down and you keep working and keep working and keep working, and maybe you'll get an advancement. Maybe they'll offer you one, maybe they won't. But all they're interested in is your labor in exchange for a paycheck. So, as I said, I worked as a field service tech, so I went out and I saved people's bacon. I love doing that. I love going out and fixing problems and have people come back to me and say, hey, thank God you came in and saved us. So I sort of have a mentality where I enjoy hearing that. But it was a fireman job. Basically, I ran out there when their hair was on fire. So a lot of times I was doing maintenance work, but I was always waiting for that call to come save us now. Oh my God, everything's burning down. Please put some water on our cash registers and make them work. Don't think too hard about that statement though, Carl. But lots of driving, because I covered a large service area. And the only thing I was responsible for was to do the work. They call me, I go do the work. If I didn't have any specific work to do, I had a maintenance schedule I worked through. So they gave me the customers to go take care of, and when it was all over with, they paid me. I didn't have to worry about where the money was coming from. The one thing I really hated about the job, though, is we had split weekends. Either you worked Saturday or you worked Sunday. You never actually had an entire weekend. And that was one of the downsides of the job, because it was a 7-day-a-week job. For some strange reason, Carl, people wanted to buy hamburgers on Sunday. I can't figure it out. So Carl's Jr. obligated everybody, or accommodated everybody by actually being open on Sunday. And I hated the office politics, because you would go to the office and you had to worry about, am I on the supervisor's good side today, or am I not on the supervisor's good side today? And you see the brown nosers would come in and they would be, I don't want to say chatting up the supervisor, but they would be over there bringing in cookies for the supervisor and stuff like that, because they're trying to get ahead of you in the advancement area. But I had a dream, an entrepreneurial dream. My father always in his entire life wanted to run a business. He wanted to have his own business and be his own boss. And sadly, he never got that opportunity. He died at 49 before he realized that dream. And I was working at a field service tech, and they came around to layoffs. I said, okay, Carl's Jr. had a down year because they tried to expand to not Mexico, but Texas, and they got thoroughly whooped, and they lost a lot of cash, so they had some layoffs. So I said, I'll take the layoff. I'll take that nice big fat severance check. And with that, I went out and started my own company. So I wanted to realize my father's dream. And while I was doing field service, again, it was cash registers, I was doing field service for some Carl's Jr.'s in the area, sort of outsourced tech. While I was doing that, I realized that those cash registers really were part of the first networks. So I went ahead and cross-trained into learning computer networks so I could work on general office networks. But still, it's a fireman mentality. I had to go out and save everybody's bacon, which I enjoyed getting the accolades for, but still, after a while, it gets sort of old. And along with learning that networking, I progressed into general computer repair. So again, I was always out saving people's bacon. But the problem was, Carl, now I had the responsibility of having to find the clients, do the work, and make sure the money came in, especially when they were slow to pay. And since I worked for a lot of very small businesses, a lot of times they were always trying to figure out who gets paid this week. So you had to wait until it was your turn, or you had to go down there and beg for the money, or you had to threaten to cut them off and then lose a client that you spent all that time getting. So I felt like I was on the treadmill. I was running along, running. So I was on the corporate treadmill. Now I was on the be your own boss treadmill. I had all these things I had to do. Well, then 2006 came along and I got religion. I went to a conference and they said MSP, and I thought, managed service provider? Oh, that's great. Look at all the beautiful things that's going to do. It's going to let me automate a lot of the processes I do now because the computer will be sending me the alerts instead of me having to rely on the client to tell me stuff. And I could handle it in a more proactive nature. I could the work automatically flows in because if something breaks, the computer tells me. I can just look at the dashboard, and a lot of it I can fix remotely. And the customers are going to be better served. And I like that idea. Happier customers is always a good thing. They say happy wife, happy life. Well, I guess in the small business world, it's happy customers, happy life. So that sort of fit into the whole MSP model. And then because it's all proactive, there wasn't so much rushing out to fix a client. So it all sounded great. This was the promise. You still had the treadmill to run, but you were going to be fit and in shape. But for me, there was issues with it. I still had to go find the clients. It didn't fix that issue because when you lost a client, you still need to go find one. So marketing was still as ever present as it was before. Going to those Chamber of Commerce meetings were still something you had to do. I still had to talk them into a contract where they weren't used to signing contracts before, not at my existing client base. So then I had to decide, was I just going to fire all these clients and start all over again with brand new clients? So I ended up with a mixed model. I had break fix and I had some MSP. I still had to collect the money because I really have problems getting them to agree to automatic withdrawals from their accounts. So I'd still build them, I'd still wait for money to come in. And I found that in order to try to remedy all these issues I was going through and figure out how to reach that dream body that running this treadmill was going to give me, I was going to all these conferences every year. And of course, that was an additional expense. Now, I enjoyed seeing people like you, Carl. In fact, I remember going early for your presentations because they were so beneficial to me.
And I appreciate that.
But I still never quite reached that ultimate dream body that I was trying to build running that treadmill of the MSP. So I ended up more like this. And then I got a new vision. Now, Carl, you've read the 4-Hour Workweek, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, well, The promise there is how to find somebody else to do your work for you so you can sit around and drink martinis all day in a hammock.
Right.
Not exactly. That's not exactly the book. But the idea is how to outsource your work so that somebody else is handling all the heavy lifting and they're remediating all the issues that come up. And then you check in 2 or 3 times a week and work just to make sure all the processes are running, and then if something needs to be automated, you work on getting something else automated so you only have to deal with it one time. So I read that and I tried to theorize, how in the world can I make this happen? Because an MSP, for this to really happen, I eventually would have to hire employees. And I just didn't see financially being able to do that. So I had to find something that didn't involve me trading hours for pay. I had to find something that I could either hire somebody to do, which didn't seem feasible to me to hire somebody here in the States to do it, or I had to be able to outsource it to another country, which was always a worry for me on the IT side, because I did not want to outsource passwords and people in other countries actually coming into my clients' machines. If I was going to do that, I felt like I would have to disclose that to the clients in advance as a sort of a full disclosure thing, and I didn't want to do that either. So that meant I had to find a different business that I was going to be comfortable outsourcing. So the promised land was going to be the internet. I had to find something on the internet that I could do that would make me money that I could then automate and outsource for other people to do. And Carl, I believe it was about 3 years ago, we talked about outsourcing to the Philippines on one of the podcasts.
Right.
I went to the Philippines with the idea that I was going to build a bunch of websites, and those websites were going to generate cash, and then I was going to have people in the Philippines actually follow up and keep those websites up for me. And I would become the guy who just did the research to figure out what new websites we were going to build. That was the dream, and I was actually running that dream fairly well. I had hired 3 people in the Philippines full-time, and they were actually building the websites and going out and finding the content to put on those websites.
Tell me more about the websites. So are these like educational websites and then you're going to sell advertising? Is that the model?
Well, they were educational websites, and we were optimizing them to bring in clicks to Google Ads, and then we got paid, a portion of the Google ad revenue.
Right.
That was the idea behind it. Well, Google, see, this was all back in 2010 when we started this. And Google, of course, decided to change their algorithms, which pretty much dumped that business overnight. So they had a business that didn't work anymore. It had started to work. We were realizing the dream, and then didn't work anymore. So after that, I started running a bunch of other treadmills, trying to find one that would work. Now, technically, one of those is not a treadmill, but I realized that. Still, I was trying many, many different things to see what would work. So I've been through probably about 6 or 7 internet businesses. But because I was using outsourced labor to do most of the lifting for those businesses, I was able to try multiple businesses rapidly to see which ones were actually starting to fulfill the promise and which ones weren't. I could not have done that without the outsourced labor. So it gave me a chance to try many, many things. So what I've ended up with is developing services I could sell repeatedly because they're all internet-based. Develop the service, and then multiple clients can come and sign up for that service. And I develop products that I can sell repeatedly. And as we talked about at SMB Nation, I developed a product, have it sourced in China. I bring it over here, and then I sell it. Now I can order 100 of that product, or I can order 5,000 of that product. The order time takes the same amount of time, Carl. Can you believe that?
Yes.
So it's scalable very easily to go from 100 to 5,000 to 10,000. My involvement in the amount of time is the same, regardless. It's just how fast it sells and when I need to issue an order to replenish. So the big reveal for everybody that doesn't know yet is as far as the product business goes, it ended up being Amazon. Now, mind you, I went through lots of training. I found lots of courses from lots of people, and I invested lots of time in training, and then I would practically do something with the training. I would come up with systems. I would give it to my outsourced team in the Philippines. They would do most of the heavy lifting. Then I would come back in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, and I would evaluate whether or not the business was actually doing anything, whether it was actually accomplishing the goal that I had for it, if I needed to make some tweaks to allow it to accomplish the goal I had for it, or if I needed to abandon it. So I abandoned pretty much all the businesses except for 2. Amazon actually came through. We sourced the product in China after much search and much vetting of suppliers, brought it over here, did our initial promotion, and the product began to sell.
Nice.
So based on that, now we're building out additional products into that brand. We just launched our 2nd product last week, and I have 3 more products coming this year. So we're going to make it an actual brand with multiple products, and that's selling pretty well. The other business, which I don't have here, is we developed a recurring service for funeral homes. So a funeral home can sign up for a knowledge, I don't call it knowledge, but call it a decision tree matrix to help people figure out what the cost of their funeral would be if they wanted to buy pre-need insurance. So we're developing that right now. We're almost in the position to launch that now. But the only reason I'm even willing to do that is I have a marketing consultant who wants to sell that product for me. I don't want to get into the sales side.
Right.
So I outsource. So this is a case where I've outsourced the sales part to someone who's already an expert in that industry. Amazon, I outsourced the sales part to Amazon for the product. I'm just in the fulfillment area. On the product side, China makes the products and they ship it to Amazon directly. I just monitor it and I do a little bit of promotion here and there, but Amazon actually carries the sales, the collection, and the returns and everything. Amazon carries that, and they take their portion of the fee for that.
So wait, so repeat that. So walk me through, you have something manufactured in China.
Correct.
And they ship it to you. They ship you 500 or 5,000, whatever you order.
No, they actually ship it straight to Amazon.
So they ship it to Amazon, and Amazon has got some kind of, in their store system, they will charge you for it, but they will store 5,000 pieces, and when something sells, they take their cut and you get the rest.
Correct.
So you never
every 2 weeks I get I don't touch it. I will take the first order for a brand new product just to make sure that it's manufactured and the quality's there. But every additional order of that product I will ship directly to Amazon.
Wow.
Because I have that much confidence in my supplier. Now in August, to be sure that they weren't strapping young children to machines, I went to China and looked at the factories. I wanted to be sure what the work environment was for the workers. Now, it's not like it is here. I'll be very honest about that. It's more like a factory in the United States might be in the 1950s. But they're not strapping people to machines. They have defined shifts and work hours, and they get to go home and rest. So they're not working endlessly like you might think.
Right.
And unless they scooted out the young children out before I got there, there were no children strapped to machines. So I think that on the ethical side, when you have questions about this, about work overseas, you need to actually go see it. If you're going to invest time and energy into it, you need to actually go see the work environment. And once the product really started selling, then I wanted to see the work environment. That's why I took the time and went to China to see it.
Right.
So I think that's part of the equation. You can't just use other people's labors without any consideration for what they have to go through in order to make your product.
So obviously you saw a few other things while you were in China. You didn't go there just to see a factory, but was it difficult to find a supplier in China and then say, I want to be able to come visit your site and verify what you're doing?
Another suppliers coming out of the woodwork. The problem is finding a supplier that is not pretending to be something that they aren't. And so there's a whole vetting process you have to go through. And I went through about 6 suppliers before I found someone to make the mix.
And how did you find the 6, right? Because I think about, I just look at my desk. It's covered with small plastic useless objects that somebody somewhere said, I need one of those made in China. I need 1,000, I need 1,000,000 of those made in China because the world doesn't have enough letter openers or, whatever.
Well, no, we need a more beautiful letter opener.
There you go.
Or a sharper letter opener. It's just like in IT, Carl. You have to look and see, how can I differentiate this product to make it stand out? How can I change this product to appeal to a certain demographic that maybe the other products aren't appealing to? Just like in IT, you have to pick a niche.
Right.
And then you have to decide, what's my marketing message to make this to make my service or product more appealing than the next guy's service or product. You have to find that unique selling proposition, even in products, just like you have to in IT. But once you find it and you settle on it, the production and the sales are all automated.
So how did you find the 6 potential manufacturers that you...
Oh, yes. That's Alibaba.
Okay, so you go to Alibaba and you sign on and you say, I want to manufacture something. I need to find people who will create this, whether it's oven mitts or whatever.
Correct.
So,
that's right.
do you mind talking about the oven mitt project?
No, not at all. So, I'm sorry, this is as far as I got to the side.
No, that's totally fine. So,
but you go into Alibaba. Let's say in my case, I went to Alibaba. I typed in oven mitts. Now, I think a little background on how I decided on oven mitts in the first place is in order. The key to Amazon sales is, first off, you need to find something that sells pretty well. It doesn't do any good to create a product if people aren't going to Amazon to buy it. You want to find something in Amazon that sells well. In other words, you want to verify there's demand for the product. And how do you do that in Amazon? Well, you look around for products that you think, well, this would be interesting to sell. Then you look down the product and you look for the BSR number. That's the bestseller rank. You want to see how well that product is selling, and that bestseller rank number will tell you how well it sells. So pretty much anything in the top 10,000 for a category, let's say like kitchen and home is the top category. Mm-hmm. You want to find something within the top 10,000 BSR rank. And then you look at that and you go, oh, well, this looks like it sells pretty well. Let me go ahead and go to Alibaba and see if I can find somebody to make it. So you make a note of what the prices are selling in Amazon. You go to Alibaba. You type in your general search term, whatever you think your keyword phrase is going to be. In my case, is silicone oven mitt was the key term, the most popular term. And then you see what comes up, and you sort of, there may be 500 suppliers of that. So you sort of browse through them and see which ones you think are interesting. The prices are not always reliable on Alibaba because pricing is determined by quantity ordered. So since they have no idea what quantity you're going to order, they all say the same quantity. They say you have to order 3,000. But quantity is always negotiable. So the only thing you have to worry about on quantity is that they're making enough to make it worthwhile for them to turn on the production line. And for most places that might be 500, or it might be 1,000, or it might be 100. It all depends what the type of product is. In my case, they won't turn on the production line unless it's 1,000 pieces.
Okay.
because they have to prep the machines for the molds and everything, and they're not going to do that for 50 pieces. It's just not worth their time, and even if they did, the price would be too high because they would have to charge you for all that setup and prep time.
Right. Do you mind if we...
So in my case, it's 1,000 pieces.
Do you mind if I show the Alibaba site?
Oh, no.
All right. So let me just...
Go ahead. I'm done with the slideshow, so you can pull it up.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to go to...
Or I can show it.
My... no, I'm going to make me the presenter. That's all.
Okay,
I'm
that's
just...
now it means you'd be able to show all those embarrassing pictures.
Exactly. Exactly. So here, you know, you go to Alibaba, and it's just Alibaba.com, and you say that you're looking for something,
Right.
and so you say, whatever. I'm going to put in something other than oven mitts, but so you put in toy shoes, and it says find a supplier. Okay, anyway. So, whoops. Move past something. So here I put in toy shoes, and here's all of these things, and you say, oh, I want one like that. So when you did oven mitts, you started with basic, like something that somebody was making already, but eventually you had them custom.
Something that was being sold well, yes.
Yeah, so you found something. Now see, the interesting thing is, right, so this is per piece 24 cents to $1, right? So let's say the minimum's 1,000. It would cost me $1,110. And is it plus shipping?
Plus shipping, correct.
And is shipping ridiculous from China?
Well, it depends. If you have to air freight everything, you're going to pay somewhere to about $5 to $6 per kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds.
Okay.
So weight is consideration, and dimensional size is a consideration when you're actually picking products.
Right.
There's a lot of great products out there, but due to their size, by the time you get them into a box, they're almost impossible to make any money on if you air freight them.
Right.
And in the beginning, if you cannot afford to buy 10,000 of something, you may be buying 1,000, but to get it to market so you can actually prove whether or not it sells, or your version of it sells, you will probably air freight your first shipment.
Right.
Then after that, you can decide if you want to air freight or go ocean freight.
And ocean freight's obviously...
But ocean freight only applies if you're ordering a very large quantity.
Oh, okay. So you go here and you find a product, and then you say, all right, how do I know that this manufacturer is honest and trustworthy and, you know, not filling these things with lead and blah, blah, blah?
Right. Well, you want to start by picking 5 or 6 manufacturers. You peruse through it. Everybody looks good in their high school yearbook picture. But you actually know some of those people are jerks.
Right.
But you can't tell by the high school yearbook picture. And Alibaba is like the high school yearbook picture. They're on their best look is what they put on that page.
Right.
So you do it, you look through there, it gives an idea of what the facilities are, what you're doing right now. It sort of gives you an idea whether or not they're working out of their garage or if they actually have an actual factory. You look through that, and you get a feel for what their minimum quantities is. You look to see if there's any other differentiators in there, like any certifications or anything. And then you pick 5 or 6, and you just contact them. Just contact them right through Alibaba, and you see who responds back. Some people respond back right away, and some people would take their time. My actual supplier that I ended up with took over a week to respond back. But they had better pricing, and they were much more, I guess, upfront with answering details that I asked for.
Right.
Where a lot of them, they're a little bit cagey because they don't want to tell you too much because, well, first off, you're some guy in America asking for something.
Who has no idea what he's doing.
They get thousands of emails a week for wannabe people who are just thinking about the idea but actually don't have any money and probably will not follow through. So they have to decide which ones they're going to concentrate on because they have a limited sales staff, just like we do.
Right.
Most of their people are down on the production floor making stuff. So they have to decide who looks legitimate and who doesn't look legitimate. And so you want to sound very official You want to sound like you have lots of money. And you want to sound like you are already a going concern and that you could order product at the drop of a hat if everything was right.
Right. And
Now, if you come in and say, I only want to order 100 of something, and you sound like you have no business acumen whatsoever, you probably will never hear back from them.
right. And do you think they're checking out your website as well?
If you have a website. In my case, since I built this completely outside the IT industry, I didn't even have a website to give them because I had no physical product business at the time.
Right.
So if you have one, then you can give it. And now I can do that. Certainly, I have a website and I have a product that's already successful, and it gives me even more negotiating leverage if I go into a company.
Right. Okay.
But I haven't seen a need to because my current supplier, I'm very happy with them, so I've not even looked for new suppliers.
So when you started with the oven mitts, did you go to a site like this and say, pick an oven mitt and then buy those, sell them, and then go back and customize it? Because I know at some point you started customizing it.
No, I did not. I discussed with the manufacturer what could be changed. In my case, all I did was I changed the color. Well, first off, I looked on Amazon and I said, okay, these are my main competitor and my main two competitors. These are the people that I want to beat. What does their product look like? What can I change on my product so it's distinctly visually different than their product? In my case, I ended up changing the color. I want a little bit darker color. I put a hem on my product where they didn't have a hem on their product. And then I included a freebie. In my case, I included the little silicone brush as a freebie because they had nothing with their mitts. It was just the mitts. So I threw in a little freebie. I discussed with the manufacturer what little freebie I could throw in that would not add very much to my cost. So I threw in the silicone brush, which generally is worth $4 to $5 on Amazon, and I threw it in as a freebie.
All right.
So it was a value add.
So how do we find your oven mitt here? I go to Amazon. What am I putting in? Oven mitt?
Yeah, actually, it'll come up with that.
This one right here?
I'm number 3. I'm number 3.
With the Superflex silicone, da-da-da-da. It's Amazon Prime because it's free shipping for people, probably because Amazon is shipping us directly.
Well, this is where there's two programs inside Amazon. One is FBM and FBA. FBM is where you fulfill it yourself. In other words, you have it at your warehouse, and then you fulfill it. So Amazon takes the order and they send the order to you, and then it's your responsibility to fulfill it, and then it buys Amazon the tracking information so that they can track it to the client. The FBA program is where you actually send your stock directly to Amazon. It goes in the Amazon warehouse, and Amazon actually handles the entire sale through to fulfillment to the client and then accepting returns. Amazon will actually handle all the return information and arrange for refunds and everything. So that takes a lot of administrative paperwork off of you. Now, Amazon does charge for that, but it's what, I think we paid $250 for the pick fee for it actually to be fulfilled out of their warehouse, which is well worth it. I don't want to be running down to the post office every day with packages.
Well, plus,
the idea is to free up my time, not to obligate me to get another task that I have to fulfill.
Well, and I've sold stuff on Amazon where they will order them. They will absolutely order them one at a time, and then it costs you $5.20 to ship it, and you're like, come on, you guys, because tomorrow they're going to order another one, and there goes all your profit. So you got really good pictures, and this is part where you had this hem put on that the others don't.
That's right, and you always make sure, because the idea here is you're sourcing a product to your specifications from China under your own brand name, so you have to come up with a brand name. When a lot of people sell on Amazon, what they're trying to do is they try to take a product that's already on Amazon under somebody else's brand name, and then they go out and source it, and then they try to sell it. And there may be 20 people trying to sell that product. And then you get into a fight as to who is going to actually get this product. Who's going to be in the buy box that when they click add to cart, it goes to that merchant versus a different merchant. So there's a price war always going on over that.
Right.
And you don't want to get into that situation. That's why you want to create your own brand.
So
in this case, the Triumphant Chef is my brand.
And how did you get 300?
But you want to make sure that it shows on the product. It's got to show on the product somewhere. Otherwise, Amazon will say, you have a generic product. I'm going to roll your listing in with somebody else's listing.
Right, exactly.
And you don't want that to happen.
So how did you get 324 customer reviews?
Well, I sold over 5,000 of these last year, Carl.
So you just sell enough and somebody's going to review it, right? Now, 8 of those are your friends, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, 8 of those are my friends.
So here's the part where if people scroll down, here's your item number. Average rating is 5 stars. That's pretty amazing for anything. But so bestsellers ranking. This is number.
That's another thing. That's another thing I just want to say real quick. When you are evaluating a product, read the reviews to see what people had problems with.
Right.
And see if you can fix your product to address those issues. You want to see what the most common problems
Dude, you're number 4 in oven mitts.
Yes.
That is very impressive. How many
I had a major promotion over the weekend. I was actually number 3 during Christmas, which was pretty amazing because I hadn't done any promotion on oven mitts itself, the keyword oven mitts itself. And I was actually number 3 over Christmas, and I was very happy with that, quite frankly. We just did a major promotion over the weekend, and that's why we're as high as we are right now. Normally we're about 7 or 8.
Man.
So
how do you do a promotion?
You find an email list from somebody you trust, or you run a Facebook campaign.
Oh, I see. So that's actually you just telling people, hey, go get these oven mitts. Here's the link on Amazon. You'll see how amazing they are, blah, blah, blah.
No. This is where I go to Carl and say, Carl, I would like for you to send out an email on this saying about how great these oven mitts are and how much you love them.
Ah, okay.
Because you're the expert talking to your audience who listens to you. So
have you sent these to people who blog about cooking and stuff like that?
I have. That is one outlet of promotion. I have done that somewhat. I need to do more of that.
Very cool.
I would love to get on America's Test Kitchen.
Have you sent them like a box of these?
That's one of the things on my list to do is investigate how to send them a product,
right,
and how they would accept a product. So that's one of the things I need to figure out. I haven't figured that out yet. But bloggers is again, it's one of those time-intensive tasks, which I haven't gotten around to, and I haven't automated yet for my Filipinos.
Right. So what is your business? What does this business consist of now? You still have some folks in the Philippines?
I have 3 folks in the Philippines full-time. Most of them do website maintenance because I do have the funeral home side. But they also do some follow-up stuff for me specifically on this. Right now we're preparing a campaign where we've gone through and we've pulled all the addresses and phone numbers, and yes, I get phone numbers of the people who buy.
Oh, Amazon gives you the information about the people who bought?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
You don't get their email address. You get the Amazon fake alias address for them, but you do get the physical address it was shipped to, and you get their phone numbers. And by taking their phone numbers, I can take all the phone numbers for all the people who bought, and I can go to Facebook and create a custom audience using those phone numbers.
Nice.
And then I can invite them in Facebook to come join the Triumphant Chef page.
Cool. Now, I noticed that one of the things you have included in this is a little card with your information. And is this something where you have an offer where if they register on your website, they get something, and now you've got their contact information?
Well, we have a free giveaway there. They don't have to register for it, but there is what I call the Kitchen Success Club that they can come sign up for, and they get a whole bunch of recipe books, and they get a discount coupon for future purchases and stuff like that, yes.
Right. So now I have to ask a couple questions. First of all, I mean, I don't need all the details or whatever, but obviously you're making money. Is this something that anybody could...
Yeah, Christmas was very good for us.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously. I mean, you are... I mean, I put in oven mitts, and there you are, and it's number 4 in the oven mitt category. So, and I love this part where Amazon takes care of everything. But so the next question is, a lot of people are, they're in IT. They define their businesses as installing desktops and working on servers and so forth. So how did you, like when you think about making this transition, would you do it again? Would you have done it 5 years sooner, or is this just like the perfect timing for this? I mean, you still do the IT business.
I do, but the IT is now part of my portfolio. It's not the only game. Before, it was the only game. I had to make a living out of IT.
Right.
I don't have to make a living out of IT now. What I've done in IT is I have whittled down my customer list to the customers I most enjoy, that I want to take care of, who have invested in their technology and are not causing me problems.
Right. So Peter has
and I have that core group that I keep working on, and even then I've transitioned all their services to the cloud.
Right.
So even if I'm traveling to China, I can log into the cloud and I can take care of stuff for them.
Well, I mean, imagine if you had, eventually you'll have 10 of these products selling $5,000 a year, and each one of them bringing in, enough money to live on. So,
well, we will sell more than 10. We will sell more than 5,000 of these this year. The first 6 months of last year was ramp up time.
That is awesome.
So we'll easily top over 10,000.
That's amazing.
Sets of mitts this year.
So Peter has a question about.
We're getting ready to expand to the UK.
Oh, nice. Oh, so Amazon UK's got a separate program.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and you'd have to have them drop ship to there.
Correct.
Yeah. So Peter's got a question about customs. How do you deal with customs when you order the stuff from the manufacturer that you found on Alibaba?
Well, it depends. If you order it by air freight and you use, let's say, you don't use your UPS account, you would go to your supplier and have your supplier use their account, and then they would bill you that as part of the invoice. Now, the one thing about China is you have to pay 100% up front before they ship anything.
Was that scary?
So it's a little scary, but if you can start out with 1,000 units and it's say $3, $4, $5 unit, you sort of make the investment, you cross your fingers and you grit your teeth, and you have the first set sent to you so you can check the quality.
And so the shipper deals with the customs? They just add it to the price?
The shipper deals with UPS, DHL, whoever happens to have the best price, and then they ship it to you, the first shipment, and then you work with them to ship it to Amazon for the second, third, fourth shipment if you were happy with the first shipment.
Right.
Now, UPS will deal with customs for you. But if you ship by UPS, you want to make sure you have a UPS account and it gets put onto the commercial invoice that goes with the shipment, so that customs will know who you are because they can look up your account in UPS and see who you are. And they know who to bill the duties to. Now, I have duties on this. I have to pay anywhere from 3 to 14% duties on the value of the shipment.
Right.
Whatever the commercial invoice is coming from the supplier, I have to pay duties on it. And they will typically bill you for that within 30 days.
So if I look at something, and then...
But you pay that yourself directly. You pay that to UPS.
Right.
Because they don't know what the customs is at the time of shipment. They have to wait for customs to tell them how much that's going to be.
All right. So two questions. One is, if I see something that's, weighs about the same as this or whatever, and they're $5 a piece, plus shipping and customs, what am I going to end up paying? $6 a piece? $7 a piece?
Well, in this case, I'm paying, because I'm shipping so large now, I'm paying typically about $4.60 per kilogram. And that ends up costing me about $2.20 per set of mitts, which I have to add on to the production cost. And then they sell for 21, so in the space in there I make, maybe 35% margin.
Of the 35% of the 21?
Correct, by the time I pay Amazon fees and everything. So
that's pretty good.
The interesting thing is that when I picked this, I expected to make more, because Amazon, who is my direct competitor in this market, was selling for 25. After I started gaining traction, they reduced their price to 19.
Because they're bastards.
Yeah.
Amazon is...
But I still continue to sell in spite of the fact that Amazon dropped their price by $6.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've been on both sides of this for a long time. Amazon is awesome to buy from, and they're horrible to sell through. I mean, and just in terms of, like, they want way more than their share, So,
right.
It's certainly true in the book business.
But if you're not making 30% margin after all expenses, you got to figure out shipping and everything after all expenses per unit. Don't go with that product.
Right. So, second question is, how long does it take? So you push the button today. I assume that you send them a wire transfer, a SWIFT transfer, or something. And
correct.
And then today is Tuesday. How long does it take to manufacture? How long does it take to ship? How long before Amazon can switch the button and say they're in stock?
Well, now I'm hoping nobody on this audience is going to go into oven mitts, mind
Right.
you.
No, of course.
Because I got
Pick something else, because you can't keep the triumphant chef.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to get my pricing that I got from the supplier, but typically it involves 5 factories to make my product.
Wow.
So that product moves a lot between factories. And from the time I order, mind you, I have an excellent relationship with my salesperson. I actually took a gift for her daughter when I went to China, and now I'm known as the American grandpa.
There you go. See, that's how you work.
When I place an order, I don't go to the back of the line. She puts me as high up in the production queue as she thinks she can get away with before the other sales agents start complaining to the boss. So not everybody will get the production time I'm getting. But because I'm going between 5 factories, from the time I order, typically it's ready in 4 weeks, and the air freight will take another week. So it's 5 weeks to actually get to Amazon from the time I order.
So 5 weeks.
Now, other products may only take a week to produce. It all depends on what the product is. If it's just a matter of taking something they've already got and putting a sealed screen on it, it may only take a week. It just depends on the product.
Right. And a lot of these, I'm just looking at just totally random stuff that I'm clicking on, but this is something that's completely blank. So if I were going to order this, I would customize it. I would have my colors, my logo, whatever. I could totally brand this in every way imaginable.
You can.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think about, there are people who, younger than you, young man, who when the cloud came along said, I'm just not going to do another generation of technology, and they left the IT field or they went to work for somebody else. And you decided, I don't care about the cloud one way or the other. I care about the new way that people do business, and we're going to make that happen.
Well, I mean, Amazon is just getting stronger and stronger. Every year, more and more people are just going to Amazon. It's just so easy to order it from Amazon. It's like, am I going to run down to the store? I really want this product. It's on the back of my mind. I can go to Amazon and order it right now, and that decision's over. The order's done. It'll be here in 2 or 3 days. I can go on to something else. Or am I going to traipse down to Best Buy or Hancock fabric. So whatever the product is you're after, am I going to get in the car and go down there? Now, for some people, the joy of shopping will always be there.
Right.
They want to go and shop. And then they may come home and order it on Amazon, which I think is a little dicey. Because to me, if somebody's going to put up the expense of turning on the lights and showing you the product because they got stock in the store, buy from them if you can, if you actually want to use them to make your decision. But if you already know exactly what you want, and you can find it on Amazon, feel free to go to Amazon and buy it.
Right.
It's the return policies are awesome.
Right.
It's just amazing. And of course, they're not the first ones in this field. There's others. Zappos is really big because they give good customer service.
Right.
People love the customer service aspect. So you're more well-heeled people. The customer service is more important to them than the price, and they want to pay extra to make sure they get good customer service. And that's one thing about Amazon is if you create your own brand, if you put product into Amazon, then you need to also be conscious of the fact that you need to give great customer service, which means if somebody has any problem with your product, you're going to refund them.
Right.
And you're going to write them a nice note.
Well, the other thing is that you've answered people's questions. People are like, well, or how about these? And, do they fit large hands? And, on and on and on. Look at this. Zero. Well, I guess you got 4 people in the 3-star and 1 person in the 2-star and 2 people in the 1-star. Who knows? Those are out.
Ooh, I just got a new 1-star. I didn't even see that. That just happened in the last day. I need to find out what that's about.
So, but everybody else, oh, look, there's Bob Mitrio. Everybody else, if they got questions, you answered them, and they've got their own pictures, and, it's really cool. It's sort of like you get to engage in this little community created on Amazon. So I'm just very impressed, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the webinar. Is just I want folks to open their minds about doing this stuff because, nothing personal, but you're just a guy. You're not, somebody who came in and said, I've got $1 million to spend. I think I'll invest it in this system. You took money, a little bit of money from your IT business, and you took a chance and you educated yourself on product, finding the product, creating the product, having it manufactured, shipping, how to sell it on Amazon, how to fine-tune everything. You've obviously done a lot of work with making sure that it looks good and presents well. So other people can do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, all righty. Are there any questions from the crowd? We're just about out of time here, but I'm sure Ken would be happy to answer any questions that people have. Just type them into the little question field there on the GoToWebinar screen. In the meantime, sir, anything else that you want to add here? Everybody should go out and buy 2 or 3 pairs of oven mitts, and Mother's Day's coming up, and these are great at Easter, right?
Well, I think you need to find, for those who really want to get out of the IT grind, or they feel like they just don't have the resources to become a dominant MSP in their market, then you may want to be looking for something that's going to give you an opportunity to outsource the vast majority of the functions that need to be done, the day-to-day work.
Right. Well, very cool. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time, and I would like to encourage folks to, let's see here, I'm going to go to Small Business Thoughts Events Global. Join us next time. We're going to have Dave Sobel from Max Focus talking with us, and it's 10 a.m. I need to change this, but it'll be March 31st at 10 a.m. And Max is an intergalactic company, so we're going to talk about doing business. See this little picture of all these airplanes flying around? That is Dave Sobel flying between the various continents. I think he's in Australia this week, and he'll probably drop home and change socks and then be on his way to Scotland next week. So
someplace else, right?
Anyway, Dave Sobel has been hopping literally the world for the last year or so, and so we're going to talk to him about what it's like to work with that kind of a company and what's a little bit different and better about working with a company that has an international perspective. So Ken Edwards, thank you for your time today, and congratulations on a very successful product. I hope that you get 10 of these and they all sell $10,000 or 10,000 units and make you a millionaire in the next year.
Okay, thanks.
All righty. Thank you all. This concludes our podcast, and we'll see you again on the 31st of March.